everyone, we are Geeks Not Nerds. I am Captain Logan.
And I am Vince!
Vince came up with today's topic, and what are we discussing today, sir?
Today we're talking about Furby. No, I'm kidding. Today we're talking about...
Wow, that's an old one. We haven't brought that out in a while.
Indeed. You know, it's time to go back. It's time to remind the well, if you'll allow me to mix my metaphors.
Somebody from the Geeks United Club got that topic.
That's true. But then somebody else out there just went... Oh.
One person has actually heard the Furbies and their cultural significance
to
Slinky's video. And if you've not heard about this before, I'm going to mention it because you're the one that brought it up. A few years ago, that used to be a go-to joke for Vince on the podcast. Of course, now we do GNN as kind of a podcast, the same, but we do extra long now.
It's a GNN oddcast.
That's right. And so anyway, that used to be his go-to thing when I'd be like, hey Vince, what are we going to talk about? And he doesn't have a topic in his head. He'd go, well, Slinkies. Well, we finally had to do that. You know what? Surprisingly interesting conversation.
I'm telling you, I come up with great ideas.
Anyway, what are we actually talking about today, Vince?
Today we're talking about, on this topic that I did not write on this piece of paper in front of me, when do you feel comfortable parting with collection pieces? Yeah, that's what this topic says that I didn't write down.
That's a good topic. Okay, now did you come up with that because this is something that you've recently had to deal with?
A little bit. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean,
what have you been parting with, and how do you feel about it? And has there been any tears?
Tears? No. Here's the deal for me. Like, if I tear up because I'm getting rid of a collection piece, it's because it's busted or something.
Oh, okay.
And it's something that's just irreparably damaged. And that is something that'll make me tear up. Otherwise, I start looking at my collection and I go, well, there are certain things I've been collecting for years. There was a period of time where I was unfocused in my collection, as many of us are when we start collecting comic books or whatever.
Don't look at me when you say unfocused in your collection. Don't do that. Don't do that. He's been judging me for years about that. He's like,
judging the crap out of me.
Look, you need...
You need more focus.
You really
collecting stuff in your bat cave.
Do I? Is it too... Should it only be Michael Keaton Batman? Is that what you're telling me?
That's what I'm telling you.
Does it bother you that there's like Arkham City mixed with Christian Bale, mixed with Michael...
You cannot set Adam West next to Kevin Conroy.
You can't?
Nope.
Well, they sat next to each other, I think, when they did that episode of Batman they did. when they did Grey Ghost.
That's true.
You know. Anyway, what were we talking about?
So I've started parting with some of my collection because I thought, you know what, I don't need this thing anymore. I have a lot of stuff, and I kind of look at my overflowing room of crap, and then I say to myself, there are certain things that I know I'm never going to get rid of. I'm never going to get rid of my Ghostbusters, my Two-Face stuff, The Thing, stuff of this kind. I'm never going to get rid of...
So Two-Face wasn't just a fad, you're still...
Yeah, I'm still going with it.
Wow, that's awesome.
There's just not that much out there that's not high dollar anymore. So there are certain things...
Do you realize you've been doing that for 6 years now?
Yeah.
That is really cool.
In the last 6 years, I think they've released 5 Two-Face figures, so I'm okay with that.
But I mean, you got on a Two-Face kick mostly because of Dark Knight, and then I just think it's really cool that you kept on it, because I kind of wondered when it first happened if it wouldn't be a thing that a couple years later you'd be like, I don't know why I got into all this stuff.
You know, part of me, I go, man, this was silly. But then I'll go and I'll sit down and I'll look at my collection, and then I'll say to myself, what is really important to me? Because right now I have 2 chairs set up in my my collection room, and then I have several theme shelves. I have one side that's all comics, one side that's all not comics. That's what I like to call it, my not comics section. And then I have...
You should work on that. It doesn't really roll off the tongue.
And then I have one section that's, overflow from the other areas. So all of my Ghostbuster stuff is on the very top shelf lined up around everything. And I have a Wolfman shelf specifically. And I say to myself, you know what? I cannot get rid of these collections. Wolfman, Two-Face, Ghostbusters, and The Thing and the Rocketeer are the things that... And even to some extent, I could see myself starting up some new collections. I could potentially start up a Question collection or even a Blue Beetle, Doctor Doom collection. I could see this happening, because I've already kind of started accidentally on some of these things. You have 3 friends say to you, dude, you need this Punisher, and then you get that Punisher, and then you see 2 other ridiculously cheap Punishers out there, and then you go, before you know it, you have 12 Punishers. You're like, when did that happen?
And then you turn into a connoisseur after that.
So I started getting rid of certain things because I thought to myself, I have quite a lot of stuff. I don't need this anymore. For example, I just posted something. The first thing I've ever posted to eBay. First thing. Are you ready for this? Some of you guys are going to cry out there because now this is like, don't get rid of it. I'm getting rid of my slipcase Tales from the Crypt complete collection.
Are you really finally getting rid of that? Wow.
And I got it for a good deal.
I was going to say, you didn't spend a lot on that, and it's worth quite a bit.
And right now, I think if you go to Amazon, you can get it for like $200, $300, depending. But you can get it for a pretty decent deal on eBay mostly. But that's the thing, though, is I'm not selling it for much more than what I got it for. But to some extent, I have to say to myself, is it important to sell the thing do I need a profit? Or can I just get rid of it? For example, I realize that I'm just kind of like just jumped on the stage here and taking it all up. But sometimes I look at my collection and I say to myself, this is a thing that I would rather give to somebody than, for example, a number of years ago, a buddy of mine said to me, Vince, I want to get into comics, but I don't know where to start. And I said to that guy that because I was entirely certain he's not just going to start reading comics daily. He's going to be one of those guys that wants to read the good stuff. Mm-hmm. So they're sitting next to me. I had a copy of The Killing Joke that I bought for $4, and I said, I don't need this issue because you can find reprints and everything. It was a reprint, so it wasn't anything significantly worth a lot of money. So I just I said, here, bud, happy birthday, because it was close to his birthday. And he said, really? Thanks. I said, yeah, it's yours. Go read, enjoy. And since then, he's gotten a little more into comic books. I mean, that's my goal, is to kind of get people into the fold without having to have years and years worth of continuity to make up for. I just say, here you go, enjoy. Since then, I've rebought that issue in hardcover. So
yeah,
it is what it is.
Well, the question was, when are you comfortable doing that? And you brought up an interesting question when you mentioned eBay. Is sometimes the answer when you make enough of a profit off of it. Is the answer sometimes I wouldn't get rid of this unless somebody offered me enough money for it? Kind of the mentality of there's no such thing as it's not for sale. You know, if you gave me enough cash for it, would I be willing to get rid of this thing? Because with that money, could I buy something that I've been wanting more, or have my taste maybe changed a little bit since then, where that thing mattered more to me than it does now, but still it's going to be hard for me, depending on how rare it is or how much nostalgic significance it has. What it means to me personally. Mm-hmm. Maybe you would have to offer me the right dollar amount.
Maybe there's a particular toy you had when a kid that it doesn't necessarily matter that it's that toy that you get. Rather, like, let's say you had a teddy bear and somebody finds an identical teddy bear and gives it to you years later, and you say, well, I don't care about this one. I know it looks identical, but I don't care about this one. I want my teddy bear.
Yeah.
And not to say that I have a teddy bear that has that significance to me, but
I have a couple things like that.
I do have a couple teddy bears because I like teddy bears. Deal with it. I do kind of like teddy bears. I have a Winnie the Pooh teddy bear. No joke.
I have one too. It has popsicle sticks sticking out of
it. That's true. I've seen it.
It's a prop. Anyway,
it's not good for snuggling.
No, not so much. Anyway. I don't know that I don't know that this isn't just a straight up it depends question, because there are. And I also think that it somewhat depends on what kind of person you are. If you're a pack rat, the answer is never.
Yeah. There's a lot of stuff in my brother's collection that you need to get rid of this. You're like, why? I love it.
Yeah, if you're the kind of person that just collects and hoards and keeps stuff, you're going to feel bad about it, even if you didn't even remember you had it. Mm-hmm. Like you'll finally get rid of it, and then like a couple years later you might see that thing again. And, I think that a lot of people that are air quote pack rats are kind of like me. They're easily nostalgic. That is definitely a personality quirk of mine. That I am deeply nostalgic, and I know there are. I've gotten comments before where I've had people say, Captain Logan, I don't understand people like you. I'm not nostalgic. I can move on from stuff. I have those things that I was interested in when I was a kid, and I've grown up, and I'm different now. And me, I mean, I have those things, but I also have a lot of stuff that I just never get tired of, and things that mean something to me that it doesn't matter how much money I could get for it, it would be hard for me to part with. So, I think sometimes it's a matter of time. For instance, I almost got rid of all of my Ninja Turtle toys at one point, and I'm very happy now that I didn't do that. Which is interesting that I'm bringing that up, because we're in the midst of Vince about to do the same thing.
Which I have a plan for that.
You have a plan for that?
And if my brother is watching, then maybe I shouldn't say what my plan is.
All I'm saying is Vince was at least talking a couple weeks ago about maybe selling some of his Turtles figures off, and I am really glad I didn't. Just for me personally, I'm not telling you what to do. I'm just saying that I at some point turned back around and became more of a Turtles fan than even I was when I was a kid, and I'm kind of glad to still have that stuff.
Well, I guess maybe this is an appropriate time to bring it up.
Absolutely.
So here's my plan. Now, you call it leverage if you will. But what it is that my brother and I, recently my mom said, here's these 3 baskets worth of toys that you guys had when you were kids. And there was lots of them. And there's 2 baskets worth of Ninja Turtles. Not even all of them. We still have the Technodrome back at my mom's place. And there's 1 basket full of Ghostbusters things. Kenner Ghostbusters. So I went through and I separated everything out. And I went, here's all the Ghostbusters, and I put them into sets and bags, and then I went through to all the Ninja Turtles and went, oh my god, look at how many accessories there are. And we had all of the accessories in separate bags, and then all of the figures in these baskets. And I said to myself, this annoys me. The anal retentive person in me has to separate these things out. So 2 days later, I've separated all these things. Most everything had its accessories, and I had most everything from its inception through 1994. Most everything, minus some of the cooler vehicles. But we had the Turtle Van and the Technodrome, and then some of the smaller vehicles. But, so I started looking through these things, and I said, you know what, I don't want these turtles anymore. I have the turtles I like. I don't need these turtles. I don't want them anymore. And I said something to my brother, and I said, I don't want the turtles. You can have all the turtles if you want them, but I want the Ghostbusters. And he said, yeah, but I also want the Ghostbusters. I'm like, yeah, but you want the turtles too. I don't want the turtles. I'm asking for less than a third of what's here. So in some ways, I'm like, you know what? I loved the turtles when I was a kid. I still like the comic books. It's great. I love it. But I don't need this stuff anymore. And in some ways, what I'm saying is that Victor's my brother, I would rather give you 2/3 of the collection just so that I can have the 1/3 that I actually care about. And I realized that some of those Ghostbusters things, if I just sold the Technodrome, I could buy a good portion of the Ghostbusters set. But I would personally rather give the Ninja Turtles to my brother.
Well, let me ask you this: is some of it with that a matter of I want the ones I had?
Yeah.
Is that one of those?
Because a lot of those things are broken.
Well, sometimes. Let's kind of narrow back in on the topic. Some of that is going to be a matter of my tastes have changed. I don't care about this as much as I used to. Weirdly, I don't have that as much. I tend to like to keep stuff just in case, and when I do get rid of things, it tends to just be I don't have space, so I have to make compromises. So I don't know.
That's a catalyst for me.
For me, I don't know that I'm ever wholly comfortable. What I have with getting rid of stuff that I really like, because I guess what I'm saying is, and I don't know what this says about me. I don't know if this says that I'm unsophisticated or that I'm not as refined as I'd like to be. I have not gotten, my tastes have not changed. They've broadened. You know what I mean? I'm interested in more things, but there's not really very much from when I was younger or any part of my life where I was buying up things for collections where I'm like, yeah, I don't care about that anymore. There's not much. Every now and again, maybe something will pop up. So, but what I have discovered is that I'm not comfortable at the time that I get rid of something, but then I don't tend to miss it that hard like I thought I would. And it's a vicious cycle. What happens with me is I will have something and go, this is taking up a lot of space. I don't have as much room. I don't have this problem as much anymore. I have a house now. When I was in an apartment, this was an issue. This is the reason Sarah and I opened all of our action figures that used to be in packages. We just didn't have the space. That was harder to do than it would have been to sell them initially. But again, I got over it. It was easy after a while. I guess what I'm saying is sometimes
it looks neat on a floating shelf.
So, yeah, sometimes I think that I am more ultra nerdy about things than it turns out that I am, where I'm like, oh, I think this is going to kill me, and then I realize, no, there's more important things in life, you know. So what I have learned to make those sorts of compromises. It's sort of like writing, where in order for the thing to be as good as you can make it, sometimes you have to cut some words out. What Sarah and I have taken to doing is we have our collections, and when we can get the bigger and better and more rare stuff, we are willing to get rid of some of the more kind of piddly, we just bought that because it had a bat symbol on it, kind of stuff. Oh, well, that's a bad example because I keep all of that just because I have a whole room furnished in Batman. But say for Superman or Spider-Man or something, yeah, I'm more willing to get rid of certain things. One thing I did, Vince shared an action figure story, so I'll share one. When a few years ago, I got rid of all of my Star Wars stuff. All my Star Wars stuff, in order to amass my Tick collection, which Vince actually helped me do, which was super, super cool of him. But Vince had a friend who had an action figure store at the time.
Oh, yes, okay, I know what we're talking about.
Do you not remember this?
I was like, what did I do for your Tick collection?
Vince had a friend who had an action figure store. It's closed now. And he had a really cool policy where he would trade stuff with you. You could bring in collections, you could bring in figures and stuff, and he would give you a certain amount of credit, or he would just say, what do you really want? I'll tell you what I need for it, basically. And a really cool kind of bartering system. There was nothing official. There didn't have to be a particular dollar amount. He would simply barter with you. I'll give you this Darth Vader for this Batman. And it was really kind of cool that he would do that. Well, I used to have, and I don't know if I've ever told this story before on camera, but I'll tell it again. I used to have a moderately sized Star Wars collection because many of my family members were confused as to which Star thing I was a fan of. And
does he like Starship Troopers?
When I was a kid, luckily that came out later than most of the Star Wars stuff happened. No, when I was, and nobody ever gave me Gate anything, and I actually liked Gate, but I like Star Wars too. But I never really cared that much about collecting it. It was the thing I enjoyed watching, but I didn't get big in the collection. I had a weird Episode 1 thing for a minute, and I don't know why, but I did,
because it was the first one.
And there was something about the tone of that movie. It's not a great movie, but there was something about the feel of that where for a minute I was kind of collecting Episode 1. I got rid of all that too. But anyway, so there were a bunch of Tick things I wanted, and mainly it was just the big talking Tick. But he also had a lot of first editions of the major trades that were really hard to get your hands on, and they were from his personal collection. He just put it on the shelf in case anybody ever bought it, and they were there for years. I mean, they were collecting dust. Nobody never picked them up, and I ended up getting all of it. He gave me everything he had for my Star Wars collection, which was really kind of a big deal. So I guess another answer to this is when it's a good compromise. You know, you might feel more comfortable getting rid of item A if item B is something that you've had your heart or your mind on for years and years, and you just couldn't get your hands on it.
You know, sometimes, especially that guy, it was part of his collection. Some of the stuff that I bought from him was part of his collection, and that's where my Rocketeer interest started. I bought a small Rocketeer from him. It's the biggest one I have. I don't know why I call it small. But and he said, that's going home with you.
Because you don't have big Rocketeers. You're just saying there are no large Rocketeers in your collection.
There's one, but that's a $250. Anyway.
Really?
Yeah, oh God, it's ridiculous. It's
You have that?
I don't know if it's by Hot Toys, but I don't have it.
Oh, I said in your collection.
Yes,
I said
the biggest one.
I said there's not a big one in your collection.
No, they're all pretty small. I do have the Hallmark one that came out this year.
Do you really?
Yeah.
Awesome.
I found that limited edition. Moving on. So that's where my Rocketeer interest started. That's where my Shadow interest started. And sometimes if he knows it's going to somebody who's really going to appreciate it, he doesn't mind, or at least at the time, he didn't mind making some kind of compromise. Because for him at that point, it was, I need to get this stuff to a good home.
Yeah,
I know it's going
that's
to a good
great.
home.
I don't think I've been in that circumstance very often, but especially because I'm a sucker for kids, especially if there was like a kid that came over here and lost his mind about the Batman or the Star Trek or whatever it was. it was like the first time he ever saw it, or he or she, and you could tell that it was like a profound moment of discovery. It would be kind of tough for me not to pull something off the wall and hand it to that kid. And also some things are replaceable. Like I like the story that you told about the Killing Joke, because some stuff, yeah, I'd just be like, well, I mean, I don't. This isn't hard to get. Or do you ever not buy things because they're too easy to get? You ever do that? Where
Yes.
you ought to have it in your collection, but you keep putting it off for other things that cost more, or like okay, you amassed a certain amount of money to get to get something. You're like, well, I really do need to get the No Man's Land trades because
That's
I don't
hard to
have
say.
those yet. Yeah, it is hard to say. But here's this other thing. I don't know if it'll be here forever, and
Oh yeah.
You ever do that?
When it comes to movies, like I'll go see a movie in theaters, so I know that
Movies
I've
is a
seen
big
it.
one. Yeah, I put stuff off forever.
But I don't necessarily need it in my collection immediately. Like people that rush out opening day or like opening night, release night, I need to go get this on DVD or Blu-ray or whatever. Betamax. But so you go get it on the preferred platform of your choice. HD DVD. So you'll go get these things, and you'll come back and you'll say, cool. And then 6 months from now, it's going to be still the same price. And then 10 months from now, it's going to be $3 less. And then beyond that, it gets even cheaper. And then I say to myself, do I need it?
Yeah.
Like, I know I want to see it eventually, but so I'll put that stuff off. But figures, so often they'll go to the shelf, and if it's something like I can do this, I can say, do I need that? Do I need it for a collection? Cool. Will it still be here in 10 months? Cool. Will it still be the same price? Cool. No, I'm not going to get it now. So, but something that I'm like, I know that as soon as that leaves the shelf, it's going to stop being 18 and start being 50. I'll get it now.
Yeah.
And yeah, and that's kind of the spirit of things. Like it depends a little bit. Like a lot of those Ghostbusters, Mattel Ghostbusters figures, a lot of those things, they left the shelves and they suddenly became $100. And specifically the Egon with the books and the Winston with the trap. Those things became ridiculously pricey for no good reason. And well, the Winston did because they only made a few of them. But so then when I see them come out on their website, I say, man, I need to get that now so it's not terribly expensive. Like, look, the trap that they sold for like $300, $400 when it came out, that's like $2,000 on eBay now. It's ridiculous. That is ridiculous. I was doing everything I could to not cuss during that. and
But it's just because it's super rare, yeah.
it's cool. It was pricey when it came out. Now it's super pricey.
What does it have to do with getting rid of stuff?
I'll get rid of certain things that I know I can get a good price on, so I can get those things.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah,
And
of course, yeah.
I
Definitely.
would do a trade, but it's hard to find somebody to trade. Once upon a time, people used to have swap meets, and they would all I don't know if that's what those were called or not, but people would have these meetings where they get together and they trade a bunch of stuff, and they did it for everything. I was talking to a guy that does it with records, and he said, I may not be into Elvis, but I'm into Sam Cooke. And I'll buy the Elvis stuff when I find it because I know Bill and he loves Elvis, and
That's cool.
He'll do the same thing for me if he finds Sam Cooke, and we'll just trade. And he said that to me, and I thought, wow, that's an outdated idea because now we have eBay and we can just exchange money. And then I went, well, that same note, I still know people that do that. There's Facebook communities out there where people just trade their stuff.
But I think part of why it's still a cool and valid thing to do is because it gives you a reason to be social.
Yeah, that's true.
And sharing interests and stuff. So that's fun. Also, it's always, we're jumping all over the place, but also it's always kind of nice to be able to see precisely what you're buying right in front of you. I still buy a lot of stuff on Amazon and eBay, but don't you sometimes want something more when you can see it?
Yeah, and that's one of the things about those brick and mortar stores that I'll walk into a place
When
and
it's right there and you can put it in your trunk in the next minute and a half.
Yeah, I've done that. I did that at a yard sale the other day. This guy had a bunch of Universal Monsters stuff for sale, and I was like, you know what? I need to save my money, but it's
right there.
It's in my hands.
It's right there.
I have never seen this giant stuffed Wolfman on the internet. I've never seen it.
Yeah.
I've never seen it anywhere before. So I need to get this now. And then I buy it and I go, I can't believe I spent that much money on a stuffed Wolfman. But whatever. At that same yard sale, I got a keychain Wolfman, and I had a Universal Monsters Mount Rushmore. he had a lot of other stuff I wanted to get, but I went, you know what? I'm going to draw the line at
Mount Rushmore.
It's really funny to me. There's the Wolfman, Frankenstein, the Mummy, and Frankenstein's a monster. Let's be politically correct there, Doctor. But
it's not about politics. It's about just historical accuracy.
Well, I don't know.
That's about the truth, Vince. It's factual. It has nothing to do with politics.
I was being facetious.
It is not. Oh, okay.
So, and it also has Dracula on it, but I think it's really fun.
I want to talk about a couple other aspects of this before we quit. First of all, I find this question easier to answer in the reverse of when are you not comfortable. I'm not comfortable getting rid of things that I know I simply could not replace. I would never be comfortable selling my signed stuff that are really unique that I just couldn't get, that there'd be no way to get again. My Adam West Batarang, I would not be comfortable getting rid of that. Those are the sorts of things that I would only get rid of if my family was starving and I had to. You know that kind of stuff. I am not so far gone as a geek that I would save those things instead of feeding my family.
I know some people, man.
but I am not one of those people. But I should say that that on the flip of that, there are things that I think I maybe at one time would have been a little bit more anal about what condition they stay in, that I don't feel that way as much now because I have a kid. I think children really changed this a little bit. After all, I saved back a lot of stuff in case I had kids. Used to think of it more as part of the collection, now think of it more as in investment to have more stuff for my kid to get to grow up with. So I have all these really cool, fun things that I grew up with that I loved that now my kid is enjoying, and he's very careful with things. Every now and again, because it's plastic and plastic breaks, something will accidentally break, and I have discovered that it doesn't bother me. And that's good. You know, I'm just saying it's a really good. It's a really good thing, and I wouldn't have. It's one of those things where you have to kind of test yourself. I would have thought I'd be like, oh no, you can't play with these things anymore. You know what I mean? But it has turned out I'm not that kind of dad. I'm not that kind of collector. And anything that I really, really care about, I keep someplace else. Or with Jason, I can just tell him, you can't play with that, and he won't play with it. But but like, there's not a lot of stuff like that. And most of the things I don't let Jason play with is just because it's too fragile, not because I need to keep it in pristine, perfect shape. So I mean, I guess we did a condition video lately, so I don't want to go back into all that stuff. But I'm just saying that, like, I also think that while I'm more willing to compromise than I used to be on getting rid of things to maybe get something I want more. I also am less worried about what conditions some things are in. And the other thing I wanted to mention is sometimes, I mentioned taste change. I think sometimes also your perspective changes. I think sometimes a thing mattered more to you when you first got it than later on. And like I said, I don't get rid of a lot of stuff, but every now and again there'll be a thing where I'm like, I thought that was the best thing ever when I bought it, and now it feels a little more dime a dozen. Have you ever had that, or where maybe you just learn more, or maybe things change and you're just like, yeah, it's not as rare as I thought it was, or that's not as or it's not as novel anymore. You'll find a thing where you're like, that's hilarious, and you'll buy it, and then it becomes like a big fad, and then you're like, oh, it's not as much fun as it used to be. I haven't had that with a lot of things, but every now and again that comes on.
Sometimes, like, my taste will change, or my opinion will change, and I'll say, you know what, that was really funny to me, but it's not so much funny to me anymore. And, like, for example, the Lobo convention special. I really liked it when I first got it. And now I kind of went, meh, I don't need to have it. It doesn't support any particular collection. I don't collect Lobo. I don't collect Death of Superman. So, it was funny, and I enjoyed it when I had it, but, now it's time to let it go.
Well, and actually, this is probably the last thing I'll say. With comics, I don't really get rid of anything. I don't tend to go back through my comics and go, yeah, I don't need this, because they just don't take up that much space. Like a long, long boxes. I mean, trades are another story, but I don't have, nearly as many trades as I do singles. But like, I don't know. For me, it's like if I was gonna get rid of, say, like 200 or 300 at once, that would make a dent. But just like 1 or 2, who cares? Like, just have them in there. I have multiple copies of some things. Like, it's just, you know, just whatever. I guess what I'm saying is I have the space for my long boxes. I used to keep them on bookshelves. I miss doing that. But I have all my comics in long boxes, like lots of people do. It's the cliche way to keep them. It's also not the easiest way to find things.
And you have a cubby hole that fits long boxes very well.
I have a cubby hole that fits them, and it's not full yet. And until it gets full, I'm not really worried about it. Like, I don't tend to go back in and like you tend to organize more than I do. And for me, you just really like to organize. Now, with comics, I enjoy logging them. I like to know what I have. But as far as just like going in and making sure they're like in the right places and all that, like, you know, I have a database that puts them in order for me. So I might not, you know, it makes it harder to find them if I don't put them where they're supposed to go, but I'm not always looking for things. So I try to keep them in a good order, but I'm not constantly organizing them. And so I don't always think about, oh yeah, I don't really want that anymore. Every now and again I'll go through stuff and I'll find one and be like, yeah, I don't need that anymore, and give it to somebody that I think will care more for it, or you know, whatever. But anyway, I'm just saying that like when I think about getting rid of things, I don't think about comics so much. I tend to just keep all my comics.
That's fair. I mean, especially if you've already read it and then you say you don't need it. But there have been things that I've gotten rid of because I started reading it and I went, wow, I don't know why I waited to get all of this when the first 3 issues are so ungodly bad.
But the thing you gotta remember is that I started as a collector and turned into a reader, and you went the other way. You started somewhat more as a reader. I mean, I know you've always collected, but what I mean is, whether or not something is good often has no bearing on whether or not I want it in my collection.
That's fair.
Often, not always. I really probably should not go through this whole video without mentioning Spawn, because Spawn is a thing, and I know this is coming up all the time now because of Spawn year and because we're getting toward the end of it, but here's the thing. People keep asking me, okay, Cap, so clearly with Spawn year, you're not as big of a Spawn fan as maybe you thought you were when you started. Yeah, that's true. And yet, I've got a Spawn collection now that could rival a lot of Spawn collections. Am I gonna keep it all? Do I keep the like couple hundred action figures I have, and
consider it spoils of war,
and all the and all the very dreadful books, a lot of them, you know, like, do I keep all that? And I'm in a place now where I don't know that I would be comfortable getting rid of it, because it represents 2 years of my life now, and it's almost more a testament to Spawn Year, to this project I made, than it is, oh, I'm a fan of this character. And so, like, it feels really weird in my brain to, like, keep it around when I don't really like a lot of it.
I think you need a Spawn shrine when this is all over.
Yeah, yeah.
So you can take people and say, you see that? Finish that.
I'm a veteran.
And then you'll just have like a computer that has a screen that big and like a black shroud around it that you can just sit there and watch all of Spawn you're at. You go, I can't believe you did this. This is ridiculously long and awful. And Spawn that is, not Spawn. Hang on, let me judge Cap to his face in front of all.
Well, you helped me make it.
This is true.
I always think that a couple of months after Spawn Year, I'm gonna have comments and or emails, and people are gonna be like, Captain Logan, I just want to check in on you, make sure you don't have any post-traumatic stress disorder.
I like that. I don't have any joke to follow that. I just like it.
It's not gonna happen. I'm fine.
I'm not entirely certain.
I'm fine, folks. But anyway, yeah. So I don't know. That's a weird collection. That's a thing that I only started collecting because I mean, it was it was a thing I thought was really cool when I was a kid. But then I bought out a collection and wound up with like the first 90 issues all at once, and was like, I guess I'll start collecting this now. So
yeah.
Anyway,
when you get a chunk of something, it makes it harder to deny getting the rest of it. Like, man, there's only 9 more figures from this line? God, I might as well get that. I already have the other 8.
This was not a super focused conversation. I feel like we just told a lot of stories and jumped around. But so it's fine. But I want to end by saying, do you want to sum up your thoughts?
I guess in summation, come to think of it, Brother V Blues. That's what I am on eBay. So go buy my thing. That was not the intent of this, but I just, happened to think.
That's totally why we made this. I didn't even know it. It was Vince's fault. I'm sorry. Apparently, we just did this to plug all stuff Vince wants to sell.
Oh God. But to some extent, I say if there's something else I want to get in lieu of, or in exchange for this other thing, then that makes it easier. Or if I've had a change of heart and I say this is less important to me now than it used to be, and I think that's kind of the obvious thing. But I do think that it shows that there's some kind of introspection here.
Yeah.
That a person needs to say, is having everything important to me, or is having what's important to me important to me? And can I differentiate between the two? Yeah,
and the question is, at what point do you need to really take a good hard look at your stuff and decide to start getting rid of things? Because I think the opposite can be bad. I think constantly going, oh, I have too many things, I must get rid of them all, and then I think sometimes people in various situations, and we shouldn't go into this right now, but I feel like some people in various situations will get kind of like guilt tripped into getting rid of things they really love, and that's awful.
Yeah. And I've heard a lot of people say things like, well, my wife doesn't want me to collect these things anymore, so I'm just gonna stop. I'm gonna sell my collection. And I go, ooh, what? That's weird. Don't let her tell you to do that. I mean,
I've always thought that too.
If you guys, honest to God, have a sit down and you say, I don't really like this thing anymore. I don't know why I have these 6 long boxes of comics that I still had when I was a kid. I never intend to read them again and I don't like them. Well, fine, get rid of them.
But if the fact that you collect these things that you really love, unless it's just like impossible for you both to live in your house with this stuff, sometimes there's places where yes, you have to compromise, but if it's just simply I've got space for it, there's a closet I could put it in, and she simply doesn't like that I have it, I don't know that shouldn't be a deal breaker for you. I've always kind of felt that way. But it's
a different story when you're living in a
not to turn this into a relationship advice show or anything. But
if you're living in a 9x9 studio apartment, maybe it's time to cut some stock. But but that's different.
But anyway, well, obviously, there's that. That's a video. Although, have we done that video? I think maybe we did a video once that was somewhat about that kind of stuff. I forget
about the relationship thing.
Yeah.
Oh yes.
I think we have done that.
So go back and check that out if you can figure out what it was called.
Yeah. So I guess we did turn this into a relationship advice show at one point. I know Sarah and I did a show once on geeky dating, and we probably talked about that a little bit there too. But
go watch the latest X-Men movie or whatever came out and enjoy it. There you go. Done. That's what you guys said, right?
What's that? What?
Geeky dating. You guys.
Okay. Yes, I see what you're saying. I'm like, how is that going to help people in figuring out what to do with their collections when their girlfriends or boyfriends don't like things?
Why do you like this? I don't think this is fun at all. Shut up, wife.
Anyway, well,
I thought that was really funny.
Thanks for. I did too. I did too. It was hysterical.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I was just explaining that to the people out there, like, why did he say that? That was really stupid. It was fun.
Vince's like, no, you don't understand. It was a funny joke. Anyway, everybody, thanks a lot for watching. We sure appreciate it as always. Leave your comments. When do you get rid of things in your collection? When are you comfortable doing it? Or are you the kind of person that sometimes has to get rid of things and you always kind of regret it? Leave that in the comments. Tell us what you think. And also, if there's anything you'd like us to talk about in a future video, leave that in the comments as well. Thanks as always for watching. I am Captain Logan.
And I'm Vince, reminding you, support your local comic book store.